Coco Gauff had just won the French Open and believed it would be the defining moment of her life. But then, out of nowhere, an Italian billionaire named Giovanni Moretti reached out with an offer that left her in tears in front of her entire team. What he proposed to her parents wasn't just generous, it was life-altering, in ways that went far beyond anything a tennis trophy could offer.
But she found a way. Here she's giving her mother a hug, her mom, who was praying on TV, then her dad, Corey.
Have you ever experienced a moment when someone's generosity completely overwhelmed you? That's exactly what happened to Coco Gauff in a story so unbelievable it sounds like fiction. Fresh off her French Open victory, already a career-defining achievement, especially after the disappointment of Wimbledon, Coco was celebrating, holding the trophy, doing interviews, and feeling like everything in her life was finally falling into place. Then her manager suddenly rushed in, pale and shaken, telling her she needed to take an urgent call. On the other end was Giovanni Moretti, an Italian billionaire known for owning private islands, running massive businesses, and having a genuine, long-standing love for tennis. Moretti wasn't a random rich fan trying to buy relevance. He had followed Coco's journey for years, admiring not just her skill but her character, resilience, and the strong family bond behind her success. After a brief congratulations, he shifted the entire tone with a simple question: "How is your family?" He understood what most people overlook, that behind every champion is a family that sacrificed everything. Coco's parents, Corey and Candy, had worked multiple jobs, stretched every dollar, and always put their daughter's dream first. Coco answered politely, saying they were doing okay, but Moretti wasn't making small talk. He was preparing to change their lives. He offered her parents roles in his company as personal development consultants, positions that would allow them to travel with Coco, support her career, and help with new sports initiatives he was launching. Then came the number, $200,000 per month, each. Coco froze. Tears hit instantly. This wasn't about tennis, trophies, or endorsements. It was about her parents never having to struggle again. Overwhelmed, she could barely speak, whispering that she didn't know what to say. Moretti told her she didn't need to say anything, that she had given joy to millions through her tennis, and now he wanted to give something back by ensuring her parents lived in comfort. That was the moment Coco completely broke down, crying from relief, gratitude, and the overwhelming realization that the sacrifices her parents made were finally being honored in the most meaningful way possible.
Today was the first time I've ever seen my dad cry. He doesn't want me to tell you all that, but he got caught in 4K. You know, he thinks he's so hard, but you know, it's not. So thank you guys. I mean, you believed in me from the beginning. I've been coming to this tournament. My dad took me to this tournament, sitting right there watching Venus and Serena compete. So it's really incredible to be on this stage. You know, growing up, you know, there wasn't too many just black tennis players dominating the sport. It was literally, I mean, at that time when I was younger, it was just them that I can remember. And obviously more came because of their legacy, so it made the dream more believable. But all the things that they had to go through, they made it easier for someone like me.
To understand why this moment impacted Coco so deeply, you have to know what her parents went through. People only see the glamorous side of professional tennis, the packed stadiums, big sponsorship deals, celebrity appearances, and magazine covers, but they rarely see the years of financial struggle that came before any of it. Coco's parents spent those early years waiting tables, doing housekeeping, coaching whenever they could find clients, and constantly scrambling to cover bills and travel costs for junior tournaments. There were days when they skipped meals so Coco could eat properly before matches, and months when they lived paycheck to paycheck while still trying to fund her training and development.
Dad, Candy, Corey, congrats. We saw you closing your eyes for some of this match. When your daughter steps up to that line, serve for her second major, where are your thoughts going?
First, get your serve in and make sure that you stay under control, and that as long as you have another point, you have another chance. And just don't get upset if someone makes a shot. So it's like you have another point, so let's go out and play. Yeah.
I'm not going to ask where your thoughts were going. I'm going to ask where you were going. You don't watch it from out there. Where were you? How'd you experience this?
I kind of move around behind the scenes. I try and find a quiet corner and look at it on my iPad, and then I make notes. And sometimes I'm texting her and texting the coaches if I see something I think they can't see.
Even after Coco became a global star and started earning significant money from tennis, her parents continued working regular jobs. It wasn't because they needed to financially anymore. It was because of their pride, humility, and their desire not to rely solely on their daughter's income. They had spent their entire lives working hard, and they couldn't simply flip a switch and stop just because circumstances improved. Coco has mentioned many times in interviews that her parents work harder than anyone she knows, and you can always hear the emotional weight in her voice when she talks about their dedication and sacrifice.
Quite understandably, I see emotional tears in your eyes still. What did today represent?
It represents, like Coco alluded to before, that sometimes when you have a loss and you get down on yourself, but learning that you can pick up the sun will rise the next day and just keep working at your craft. If this is your passion, you got to give it your all. And what Coco did today was amazing. She never gave up. She fought to the end, and she gave herself the opportunity to hold up the trophy.
The weight of Giovanni Moretti's offer hit Coco Gauff so deeply because of everything her parents had endured to get her to this point. Most people only see the glamorous side of professional tennis, the stadium lights, sponsorships, celebrity attention, and magazine covers, but they don't see the years of sacrifices behind the scenes. Coco's parents spent those early years working multiple jobs, waiting tables, doing housekeeping, coaching whenever they could, and constantly juggling bills and travel expenses for junior tournaments. There were days when they skipped meals so she could eat before matches, and months when they lived paycheck to paycheck just to keep her dream alive. Even after Coco became a global star and started earning real money, her parents kept working regular jobs, not out of necessity, but out of pride, humility, and a refusal to rely solely on their daughter's income. Coco often said they were the hardest working people she knew, and the emotion in her voice always showed how heavily their sacrifices weighed on her. That pressure became a silent force driving her. After her heartbreaking Wimbledon loss, she pushed herself harder because she felt she couldn't let her family down. She carried their sacrifices like a responsibility, telling herself she had to keep fighting so everything they had endured wouldn't be for nothing. That pain and pressure became the fuel that propelled her to the French Open title, a victory she achieved not just for herself but for the parents who had given everything for her. So when Moretti made his life-changing offer, all that history rushed back. This wasn't just a job opportunity. It was liberation, her parents finally getting to breathe after years of holding their world together through pure willpower. Coco's team watched her sob during the phone call, realizing they weren't witnessing a business deal but a daughter's dream of caring for her parents coming true in the most unexpected way. When she walked into the next room, her parents thought she was overwhelmed from media pressure, but instead she collapsed into their arms and whispered that they never had to work again. Her mother cried immediately. Her normally stoic father sat down in stunned silence. It wasn't about the dollar amount, it was about finally being released from decades of financial stress. Moretti, a billionaire with endless ways to spend his money, chose to honor their sacrifice by offering each of them $200,000 per month. $400,000 combined, nearly $5 million per year. For a family that once skipped meals to fund tournaments, this was life-altering. Beyond the money, the emotional relief was even more profound. Coco had always carried the burden of wanting to repay her parents, and that pressure had affected her mentally, especially after Wimbledon. Now, with her parents financially secure, that specific weight is gone. Her coach immediately noticed the shift. She no longer plays like someone trying to save her family's future. She plays like someone who already has. That freedom makes her even more dangerous, because she's competing out of joy rather than obligation. Coco herself said she now feels unstoppable, not out of arrogance but out of genuine relief and confidence. At just 20 years old, with 2 Grand Slam titles and her family finally secure, she suddenly has a future full of possibility. This story is bigger than tennis. It's about sacrifice, family, and what happens when those sacrifices are finally recognized. So many athletes have parents who give up everything, but Coco's story stands out because a single phone call changed her family's life forever. The fact that it happened hours after she won the French Open made it even more emotional. A perfect storm of 2 life-changing moments colliding at once. Moretti deserves credit for the way he handled it too. He could have made it a public spectacle, but he chose a private call, offering help quietly and respectfully. The roles he created for her parents weren't charity but meaningful positions that allow them to contribute and maintain their dignity. This shift also frees Coco to make career decisions based purely on her health and long-term goals instead of feeling pressured by financial obligations. In the end, Coco Gauff's French Open win was monumental, but what Moretti did for her family may prove even more significant in shaping her future. It shows what can happen when generosity meets genuine need, and how the impact can go far beyond money. If this story caught you off guard, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments.